Spoiler alert, this blog is for those who are in Series 4 of Peaky Blinders. Don't read on if you haven't seen Episode 2. The move back to Small Heath has definitely done is show the power of good. The plotting and writing feel leaner, and the life and death stakes are free of grand, overarching conspiracies. It helps, too, that Peaky Blinders has always nodded to the conventions of the West, and those conventions lend themselves to this year's plot, with the Shelby clan penned back in their old haunts and enemies approaching on all sides. To be honest, if the whole thing doesn't culminate in a showdown along the lines of Howard Hawks' classic Rio Bravo or John Carpenter's modern-day nod to the West in Attack on Precinct 13, then I shall feel obscurely let down. Our heroes, if we know anything about Tommy Shelby, it's that he's a fantastic multitasker. This week, he managed to combine a funeral with a meet-and-greet session, throw a belated Christmas lunch, ensure that his own factory goes out on strike in order to camouflage the mayhem he has planned, sign a prize fighter and exchange fashion tips with Luca Changretta. Quite frankly, a lesser man would have collapsed in exhaustion, although the furious release of bullets at the episode's end suggested that our Mr. Shelby is not as in control as he's pretending. Of course, a large part of the fun on Peaky Blinders is working out how much of Tommy's actions happen through design and how much is a question of luck and quick reactions. The standoff with Aberama Gold over Charlie's Yard was a classic quick-thinking Shelby maneuver. Never try to out-bullshit or bullshitter, but there's still the nagging feeling that he's spinning one too many plates in the air, particularly where aspiring boxer Bonnie Gold is concerned. It's rare that Arthur is the voice of reason, but he had a point. Why expand at the very moment when all the other business is under threat? Tommy's other big problem remains Polly, who has always been more than a match for her nephew. This week she made that more than clear, handing out solid advice with a little bit of welcome witchery on the side while refusing to acknowledge his olive branch. Her truculent truce was one of the episode's funniest moments. Curly might say that everything will be okay because Polly is back, and Curly is rarely if ever wrong, but her desire to protect Michael at all cost, coupled with the fact she feels freed from fear of God and fear of death, means that Tommy should probably his own family as closely as he's monitoring the arrival of Italians in Birmingham. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, trouble ahead, ruthless killer Aberama Gold, Aidan Gillen. Photograph, BBC, Karen Manderbach, Robert Viglarski. The bad guys. We learned more about the sinisterly smiling Changretta as he indulged in a standoff with Tommy at episode's end. Yes, it remains a ludicrous trope for the bad guy to break in somewhere and, rather than shooting his opponent dead, spend his time explaining his motivation, but I am giving it a pass because even if Adrian Brody was incorrectly reading my tax returns, I would probably smile beatifically and say, yes, absolutely, I do owe that much. Tommy was somewhat less bowled over by Changretta's charms, although he did take time to establish some ground rules: no civilians, no children, no police involvement for the bloodshed to come. I must say I rather liked the idea of a vendetta conducted under Marquis of Queensberry rules, not least because the actual boxing fight is likely to be conducted under anything but. In addition to Mr. Changretta, we were also introduced to ruthless killer for hire Aberama Gold, Aidan Gillen, channeling his ice-cold gangster John Boy power in Love Hate, who is nominally on the side of the Shelbys, although I would note that Johnny Dogs hates him, and like Curly, Johnny is a pretty good judge. Certainly, if I were Tommy, I'd be keen to make sure that the proposed boxing match went off without a hair being harmed on young Bonnie Gold's head. Aberama gives the impression of a man who would hunt you to the ends of the earth for vengeance and then spend long cold evenings extracting his price. Additional notes: I was pleased to finally learn Ian the Bleak Midwinter origin story, and thought there was a nice point made that Jeremiah did find God after the event. The episode's title was Heathens, which, in addition to being the insult leveled by Johnny Dogs at Aberama, could also be seen as a commentary on Tommy's and now Polly's rejection of the notion of a god. Jack Rowan, who plays Bonnie, was a pretty good amateur boxer who fought 27 bouts and won 18. Will Linda tell Tommy about the possible danger Ada is in from the military intelligence police? Or is this something that could come back to hurt them later in the season? How much of what Michael said to his mother do you think he actually meant? It's very dangerous to give A desperate person hoping that way. Interesting that Tommy said neither peace nor truce. Does that mean he's given himself permission to kill his own family if required? If so, I'd almost understand why my favorite thing in the entire episode was Tommy's face of great perseverance under deeply trying circumstances as his family bickered around him. Nice. Curse from Esme, no peace for either of you ever. Shame she's gone on the road though, as I'd have been interested in seeing her match Changreta's vendetta with her own. Hurrah for the brief return of May Carlton and her excellent eyebrows of deep disdain. Finally, poor unfairly ignored Devlin, he should join Frances in her newly established home for people who are rudely brushed away by Thomas Shelby while trying to impart important information. Anachronistic yet strangely right song of the week. The best song of the episode came at its beginning when we were treated to a lovely, stripped-down version of The Mercy Seat by Nick Cave himself. Quote of the week: without you, he falls apart, and without him, they'll take us all. You've got to get us through this. For the second week in a row, Michael sums up the key point of the episode, but will Polly listen, or does she have her own agenda in mind? So what do you think? Has Polly got her mojo back, or is there trouble ahead? Does Tommy really have the time to pursue both a vendetta and a boxing promoter's career? And what deeply boring piece of information would you pay money to hear Adrian Brody read? As ever, all speculation and no spoilers are welcome below.